Swimmers spend an inordinate amount of time in the water, 4-6 hours a day some days, particularly those striving to make an Australian Olympic team. Do they think, does the water change them in some way? Does it make them change their thinking?
I can't speak for all swimmers, but absolutely. It certainly can. In fact, I have one swimmer I'm working with that comes to mind, and the water is his happy place. He just switches off. And sometimes people switch on in the water and sometimes they switch off. And for him, it's that feeling of the water around him. It's a calming, soothing, nurturing presence, material around him. That's what it is for him. And I think it can. If you spend that much time in the water, you need a lot of moisturizer. No, but you need to accept that. Look, this is how I am in the water. I actually think differently to on the land. I think for every swimmer, there's certainly a relationship there with the water, and it's different for everyone.
And yet, when a swimmer dives off the blocks to race, to compete, to strive to make a national team, it's a battle. They're diving into a battleground. It's an aquatic battleground. So it's their enemy. They have to get through it as quickly as fast as they can. That contrast between loving the water and the feel of the water and being their sanctuary versus it being a battleground, does it shape a particular swimmer's performance, how they view the water?
I think I like that analogy. The battleground is with competitors, so along the line, along the width of the pool. But I think you've got to be friends with the water. The water is always your friend, and it's a familiarity. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable in the water. You get comfortable with your breathing in the water. I think it might feel there's obviously that tension and that bundle of nerves when you dive off the blocks. I think at that level, at the top level, it all just evaporates. Pardon the pun. When you go into the water, it's just game on and swim. I don't even think swimmers feel, talk to swimmers after a race, and it's how did that feel? It's all about breathing and the turns and the adrenaline. It's not necessarily the water around them.
But does your experience say that elite swimmers have a relationship with the water that's different to the mere mortals that dive in and swim?
I think there's a sense of shared pain in the water. There's a rawness. There's that vulnerability. All the elite swimmers at the point where they potentially are at breaking point and they're in that water. There's definitely a deep connection with the water that the elite have. Friend and foe, but I think more friend. You've got to trust that environment. If you don't feel comfortable in the water, then it's not going to work, is it?
Well, I know some swimmers, and I include myself and a lot of swimmers I've worked with and interacted with, they turn up at the pool exhausted first thing in the morning, but as soon as they dive into the water, all of a sudden they're energized. So, and there's a belief from a lot of people that, and research has shown it, that you can be energized by the environment in which you're in. Do you have a sense from your own experience in the water and or from working with elite swimmers that there's energy that the swimmers can actually draw from the water?
No, of course. That sense of relatedness and that shared experience is very, very powerful. That's self-determined motivation, right? That's those three factors. You've got to have that sense of belonging as well. I think when you swim in a squad as an elite swimmer, there's always that sense of community, and that can often be part of that drive that gets you, to the pool, and always that thinking about, look, I want to achieve these goals and these times in the water now for this swim. I may not, but I'm going to be with my swimming family, which is a really important part of of an elite swimmer's journey and their training, for sure.
I'm going to change tack a little here. Earlier we talked about failure, diving and losing a race, or not getting it together in the head, not physically being able to get it together, or both happening at the same time, and not making it their lifelong goal. Have you ever worked with a swimmer that has felt haunted after a particular event or a particular series of events when they've failed, and they will live with that failure for the rest of their life?
I've worked with swimmers and other athletes who have certainly been impacted by those failures, and there's often a sense of what's the word? Yeah, there's no closure. They want to often return to that event, and sometimes it's months or years later, but then also reframing that experience. So working with swimmers, often with athletes, I always hear, I just want to go back to when I was making those times and knocking out those sets. And I always challenge athletes with, well, do you really want to go back? Don't you want to go forwards? And looking at, in that time, from the point that you failed to now, look at how much experience you've had and what you've gained. So you're adding that to this new experience of trying to attempt that goal that you failed. So don't underestimate that and the power of that. So again, it's reframing, that experience, and again, drawing on the strengths that they've got, to achieve that goal. But there are certainly athletes and swimmers where there's a sense of frustration and criticism, self-criticism, around a failure, and we work hard on compassion, because if you don't have a little bit of compassion around what you experience, you can't complain when other people don't give you that. It's got to come from within you.